Hey everyone, and welcome to Anthropology 131, the Anthropology of Music and Sound. This is being recorded here in the fall of 2021, and this is currently a brand new class that I'm offering, and I really wanted to leverage my expertise in cultural anthropology with my focus on sound and music in various aspects that I'll be talking about in this video and throughout the class. So this is what we call a special topics, and the way I'm teaching it this quarter is really I want to think of it as how you come to understand music and sound in your own life. If you've taken an introductory class like Intro Cultural Anthro or Intro Soc, you're probably pretty used to reading a textbook and going through set topics. To some extent, we'll be doing that in this class, but I'm really envisioning it more as a seminar as I get into here in the syllabus. And by a seminar, I mean we'll really come to understand these issues in our own terms, how we relate to music and sound, our own experiences. I've said this from the get-go, you don't need any background in audio, in sound, in music. If you have a healthy appreciation, that's really all you need in terms of taking this class. This is a fully DE class, so what this means is we never meet in person on the LTCC campus. As well, you don't have to participate in live sessions. I will be talking about some opportunities for live sessions. Zoom weekly meetings, which may occur every week, but we might also take a break every other week. And if you participate in one of those, you could take advantage of that and then replace your non-text discussion, which we'll get to here in a second, your open discussion for the week. Also, with your final projects, I'm really encouraging all of you to participate in a live Zoom session in which you present your work to me and also your classmates. If you have a little bit of stage fright, you can take it upon yourself to learn Canvas Studio, which is found here on the computer on the left-hand side of the page. Your screen may look a little bit different from my teacher view, but if you want to use Canvas Studio, I definitely recommend that you start working with that early because I will require a 30-minute presentation for everyone in the class related to your projects. And that will include Q&A. Now, if you don't do the live Zoom, of course, there won't be any live component or Q&A. So it's actually beneficial, I think, to do the Zoom session. So what we'll do now is we're going to go through this class and I'll talk just about how to navigate it and how to work with this Canvas shell so that you feel pretty comfortable here at the beginning when you start working with the class. So this is the current homepage. I'm going to change this probably and just put reference to our module structure. The most important thing to do at the beginning is to first read the syllabus. So click here on the syllabus tab. And this has everything you can imagine, my instructor contact, Canvas student guides, objectives of the class, all kinds of discussion of class success and possibility of extra credit, as I just mentioned with Zoom. A lot of stuff about food and housing insecurity, content warning, and then as you get towards the bottom, it's where the grades are discussed, so be sure to look at this. So your class grade is based on 700 possible points, and there are two main components, and this is again really different if you've taken my intro classes, really different from those classes. So you'll have discussions that you'll do, including a week 1 introduction discussion for 20 points, just give your brief bio, and please, if you can, state your interest in music, sound, audio technology, one of the reasons maybe why you took this class, because it would be great for us to know that. And then every week we'll have 2 discussions, and I'll show you those in a second. Those will be a text-based discussion focused on the readings and your analysis of the readings, and then also an open topic where you could focus on any number of topics that we might be considering for that given week. Everyone also is required to do a final project. So you can see of the 700, one half of that are your discussions and one half is the final project. And really the philosophy in my classes would be, if I have 2 main components, I want you to be successful in both. And most students, I think, can get an A in this class or certainly a B if they follow the directions and meet all the deadlines, as we'll talk about today. So kind of important to know some of this ahead of time. So this is the project breakdown. And there'll be different components during the quarter. So by October 23rd, you have to do a discussion of your project, which is a proposal to me, what you're going to be discussing. And that's very important. I've had people in the past not turn in the proposal, and they basically failed the class because they thought, well, I didn't turn in a proposal. I could talk about anything I want. That's not the case. So just make sure that you turn in that proposal. The project itself, again, has a particular due date. My plan is, as we get towards the end of the quarter, to have some signups. There are currently 8 of you in this class. It could get a little larger, typically during the first week. What we'll do is we'll have signups maybe the last 2 or even the last 3 weeks of the quarter, so weeks 10 and 11. And then we will have a Zoom meeting for that. And if we could tie a few of these in one session, that would be great, just for the sake of our scheduling. Again, you don't have to necessarily attend the Zoom session, but I'd like you to attend it. I think it'd be great if you did. So we'll get into that later. Here's the project rubric. You can see how your grade will be determined. There also will be a discussion that you have to participate in which you put 250 words discussion of what you learned from your project by the end of the quarter. So that's another component. So there are multiple components, so very important to go through this and make sure you understand each of the components here as we start the first week of the quarter. What the project might be could be any number of things: creating your own musical instrument, exploring the sound of a particular environment, an original music composition, ethnographic analysis of a band or a genre that you enjoy, like Afro-Caribbean music or something. So we can talk more about this and really get into conversations during our Zoom about what you're thinking about for your class projects. Again, the class projects, as I discuss up here, have to be really great. These are not pass-fail. So if you do a bad job on the projects, believe me, you won't get anywhere near the 350 points. And that's why I say most people do well if they follow all the directions and they put the time in. Again, this is half of your grade in the class, so it has to be really stellar and outstanding as far as projects go. So down here, once we get past all this great information, you can look at the specific topics that we'll be covering every week. So for every week, we'll have themes, and these themes will be ones that I'll cover in the optional Zoom sessions and some of the discussions. You'll get the breakdown of sub-themes here, and then you'll get a series of readings. And the readings are not linked here on the syllabus, but they are linked on the modules, and I'll show you the modules in a second. I also have media included. These are linked in the modules too. And then if we're doing a Zoom that week, I try to give you a sense of what the topics might be. So I've done this now currently through, this is a brand new class, so I've done it through week 4. So I'll get the rest of this obviously posted as we continue in the class, as I'm mentioning here. So eventually you'll see the entire class through week 11. If you ever want the course summary of what's due, this says every possible due date, and I say there's a lot of redundancy in Canvas, so there are no excuses if you turn in late work. Literally, there's like 5 different places where you can find all your due dates. The syllabus is one of these. Within your discussion boards is another. Your calendar is an additional option, and so forth. And if you want to set up anything like your calendar option, you have a lot of control over this on your own. You want to go to your account tab and click on your notifications and your preferences. That's where a lot of this stuff will show up. Again, I'm not viewing it in the same view that you're going to be seeing it, but you get kind of a general sense of this. The navigation menu here has most of the information needed in the class. So the files are listed here. Those are the readings, but it's very easy to just click on those from the modules. Canvas Studio is the video app that we're talking about using. Some of you might be using. You can access it here, and then I think also in your student view from the left-hand menu. So there are some handy things certainly to know up here. Pretty self-explanatory though. After you've read the syllabus, you next want to click on the modules. And the modules are really like the architecture framework that take you through this class. So the most important thing is to start with the Getting Started module and just go through this, either read the information or watch the video. And what you're watching, the video right now, is actually going to be located right here on this page. I'm recording it now. But as you move along, you'll see policies about writing. You'll do some discussion writing in this class and a little bit on your projects. Policies about plagiarism and no plagiarism. Discussion posts and how to thread your discussion posts. I give you a lot of information about that, and I'll help you out with this during the first week of the class. This talks about discussion threading. Student conduct rules. Typically we don't have a lot of issues in these classes, but just be sure that if you have any concerns, I will not tolerate slander in the class or disruptive behavior, name calling, that kind of stuff. Had some issues in the past in some other classes, so I just want to make sure up front that we're clear on that, and we should be fine. Again, I really want to run this as a seminar and not think of my role as a disciplinarian or something like that. It's a total drag doing that. If any of you have taught, it's never fun having to discipline people who should act professionally like they would in the workplace. Deadlines and makeups. Again, I don't do makeups, and so just make sure that you have all the deadlines. Our discussions will always be due on a Saturday. There are some other components as well. Typically for our discussions, it's Saturday at 5 p.m. The only exception to this is if you have a doctor's note that is verifiable, and then I will give you a makeup. But I'm not just doing makeups if you forget. I also don't do makeups for technology issues, with the exception of the entire campus goes down and we lose all our Canvas access. Then, of course, I will reach out to all of you and allow makeups, because it's nothing that you can control, of course, if it's the entire campus technology going down. This talks a little bit about student success. Again, to watch any of these, just click on the video. You can watch them here, or you can also watch them on YouTube. Turn down that volume, it's kind of loud. If any of you have on-campus classes, there is a mask policy I included here just so you know that you do have to wear a mask on campus. Now, once you get to, we'll go back to the main module page. So what you can do is, if you're going through all those as you saw, I was just hitting the next button or the previous button to go through each of these pages, what are inside the modules. We call these pages. Now, during the quarter, I want to mention I'll be collecting, and you are more than welcome to participate. So just hit a reply and we can get the resource. So anytime you find something that's a great music, sound, or technology resource, something like Audacity, which is a great free open source technology to record sounds, and some of you might actually be using this in your projects. It's a really great opportunity. The other thing would be, actually my cell phone, this is just the case, but my cell phone's over there. I was going to pick up my cell phone and say, if any of you are doing projects potentially involving recording audio, if you have a cell phone, you're set. You don't have to buy anything additional. There are some wonderful apps that you can download and use. So this is the kind of thing I really want to share and crowdsource here early in the quarter, because as we get closer to your projects, and if any of your projects involve technology of an audio or musical or even video sort, I want you to have the opportunity to learn about some of these different approaches, techniques, and so forth. And so you can click on any of these as we add to the links. And I encourage all of you to add to those links during the quarter. Now it gets pretty straightforward. So for every week in the quarter, you'll see an indication of that week number. So week 1, you'll get the topic, and you see this continues all the way through the end of the quarter. It's important to note that certain weeks have different things due. For example, for week 5, you have your project proposals due. So this is another place where it shows you the due date, the number of points, and you can click directly on any of these and be taken to that area inside of Canvas. It's super easy to use. So what I recommend is, for week 1 to click through everything. The main structure you're going to see is the following. I'll have the themes listed for you, which is that same set of themes that you find on your syllabus. So you can kind of look at that and get a sense of what we're talking about. Any of the readings will be here. All you have to do is click on that reading. You can upload it or view it in your browser. It's even easier, though, to just hit download on your PDF, and then you can look at it directly on your computer. And in some cases, use your own judgment. I would say, like in this Cox and Warner book, it's very extensive, so 812 pages. It's probably going to be better to download it than try to view it here in the browser. And by the way, you don't have to purchase a text for the class. All the texts are open source, zero textbook. You can click on the PDFs, read them inside the class at your own leisure. I also want to say that you'll find that some weeks have a lot of readings and a lot of pages. So I might say browse. I'm not expecting you to read an entire book for the week. No way is that possible. Well, what you can do is focus on some chapters, as I might indicate, or something that's interesting to you. So just keep that in mind and don't think you have to read every single book every week. I want you to get kind of a sampling of different texts in audio studies, cultural anthropology, and also in ethnomusicology. Now for the media section, you'll just simply click on the website. So this is an example of a Chrome music experiment through Google Chrome, and it's kind of cool. And I think this is, well, now I'm looking, I'm wondering, maybe it's not Google. It is Google. Okay. I figure it was Google Chrome. They own, or Google, they own most things. So it's just kind of fun things. You could make your own little songs, and just a fun way to explore music and sound with, non-musical, non-technical means. So stuff like that I will include. Again, if you find any good apps or technology, let me know. I'll also include things like video. So you just click on the video, you could watch it in the browser or watch it directly on YouTube. Okay, so that's media. So every week you're going to get this repetitive structure, the themes, the readings, the media, and so forth. Now this is a discussion page, so this is your first introductory discussion. So going back to the modules, anytime you see something that has a date or points, you know something is due and something is going to affect your grade potentially. So looking at week 2, I know something's due on October 2nd, and it's worth 15 points both times. Very easy to see that by going simply to the modules, or you can go to your syllabus and also look at that information. So the other thing you'll find every week is what's called a text discussion and an open discussion. For the text discussion, you have to write the minimum 250 words. So be sure when you're writing your discussion inside of Canvas, you will see right here that the word count goes up as you write more words. And of course, those aren't real words, but that allows you to see if you've done 250 points. Be sure to do that. Also, try to check your spelling and grammar just so that it's not super sloppy. I'm not going to be expecting like research paper quality, but I don't just want like kind of crappy stuff that you would see on social media with, I's that are not capitalized and no periods and that kind of stuff. This is a professional class, so do try to put in the work and be professional in your discussion posts. Now, what you need to do for any of these text discussions is to refer to one of the readings listed. Again, if there's multiple chapters, if there's different authors and articles like in the Cox and Warner, just say, I read chapter 2, or I read the chapter that talked about, and discuss what you learned. Your goal in the text discussion for all 11 weeks of the quarter is to illustrate that you have read some of the materials. Not all the materials. One bit of one of the books is perfectly fine. Talk about it, discuss it, why you liked it, what you learned, and give us a sense of what you gained from that reading. Now, if two of you happen to read the same text or similar area, it'd be great to do the threaded discussion. So again, refer to that in my discussion area. The basic rule on that is if you reply at the top of the page, it will appear here. And then if you're the next person to reply, and it's the same topic that's already been discussed by someone else in the class, myself or another student, hit reply here. And that creates a threaded discussion structure. If you hit reply at the top, it creates a new one, a new discussion thread that appears separate from these. And it's just easier, and I'm going to delete these now. And you can always delete and edit your post, by the way. You have that privilege in Canvas. But I really like to have these threads going because it allows us to really organize our work in the class. Now, I mentioned earlier the Zoom options. We'll talk about that more, and I'll give you some sense of when those might happen. But with the Zoom option, you can never replace the points on your text discussions. I do want you to do your text discussions every week, each of the 11 weeks. You have the option for the open discussion to do something a little bit different. And we'll look at that by going back to our modules, and we'll just look at week 1 open discussions. So this is really a broad topic that can relate to the theme of the week. So be sure to check out the theme of the week as well as those sub-themes. And if you recall, I'm trying to find that in my copy of the syllabus, the sub-themes look like this. So the main theme is always at the top, and then the miniature themes or the sub-themes are listed below that. So you can write on anything that relates to those themes for the week. I might also give you some suggested topics up here. So you could just simply write about one of those topics. You can, in some cases, watch a video. You can always watch one of the videos included in the media and do that for your open discussion. Again, open discussion means as long as it relates to what we're talking about that week, perfectly fine. You could also use for your open discussion, as long as it's 250 words, an extensive reply to a classmate. So let's say that someone in the class writes about what music is, and then they've written their 250 words. You would reply not at the top, but below their post here, and then say, I really enjoyed your discussion, and go into your own angle and what you learned from your classmates. So the open discussion is really wide open. As long as you reply to a classmate, reply to me, deal with some of the media. You could talk about a theme that emerges in the readings if you want. It doesn't have to be as precise as your text discussion. And you could also connect it to those themes that are always included in all of the modules. Now, if you want to, if you attend these live Zoom session, the 45-minute for that week, and I'm going to try to do these in the evening, I am aware of people's schedules in the class, and I'm trying to do it more like evening because I think those of you that are working professionals, you might not have the day off. Now, then again, if you work evening shifts, you might not have the evening off. So we'll see how this goes. Again, you don't have to do the Zooms, 100% optional. The only thing you could do if you wanted to is replace your open discussion for the week in which a Zoom occurs, if it occurs. So in other words, you attend 45 minutes. I will check off your attendance to make sure you stay the whole 45 minutes and come the whole 45 minutes. And then what I'll do is I'll just go into my grading book, and for your open discussion, I'll give you automatically perfect credit, 15 points, perfect score for that week. So it's totally up to you as far as how you might want to approach doing those Zooms or not doing the Zooms. I think the Zooms will be pretty interesting. I'll talk about what those are going to look like in just a second, but keep that in mind. So that's the structure of every week. You'll get your themes, you'll get your readings, your media, and then any assignments that are due. If there's an optional Zoom, that information will be listed here. You will have a logon that is right here. You literally click on the link. I'm not sharing it online because of Zoom bombing. And once you do that, you'll be able to join the Zoom session. And it is important that in your Zoom profile, you just make sure that I can identify who you are. From time to time, people do Zoom bomb these Zoom sessions, and please do not share the links on social media or with any of your friends, because if I don't see your name in the waiting room when I log onto the Zoom, I won't let you in. And I'll typically ask you, say, hey, I can't tell who you are. Can you just give your name and make sure that you're in my class? Because I don't want to be Zoom bombed. It's not particularly fun. It's super annoying if you've ever had it happen to you. So I'm not going to go through all this again. I'm still building out the rest of the modules, but every week you'll see the particular theme, you'll see readings, you'll see the media, any assignments that are due for that week, and then any optional Zoom sessions that you can log into and take advantage of. So it's pretty straightforward how that works. And the modules really are your friends. That's the place where you need to go just to make sure you understand everything in the class and that you can find all the information that you need. And I just mentioned what those Zoom sessions might entail, so we'll talk about that a little bit. So we'll focus on the theme that I'm addressing for that week, and then we'll all log on to Zoom, and I'm actually going to do a lot of this taking advantage just of my home studio and my recording equipment and some of my original instruments that I've created, just to give you a sense of what you might be getting into. I might specifically focus on something like this. It's called the Soma Divina. It's a Russian string instrument, and it's pretty interesting because it only has 2 strings. And the other thing you're going to note about it is that it doesn't have a pickup, which is very strange for a string instrument. And it instead has an electromagnet that lives inside of here. And this is created by a company called Soma Laboratories out of Moscow, Russia. And their founder is a guy named Vlad Kramer, and he makes a lot of experimental instruments. And by experimental instruments, he makes things that you don't typically see, traditional commercial instrument companies making. This is something called the Soma pipe, and it's a vocal instrument. You actually play it this way, and you control the parameters here. And it does everything from experimental beatboxing to incredible reverbs and effects, different string resonator effects that are all selectable by this algorithm here, which allows you to create the different sounds. So Soma Laboratories is an example of a company that is actually doing a lot with technology that is non-traditional, and they're influenced by a lot of non-Western forms of music and performance and technology. They have a very distinctive approach. Vlad himself is influenced by mysticism and shamanism, and you see that in a lot of his instruments. And then the quality of their builds, they're very typically expensive instruments, but everything is done if you open one up, and I don't typically open up my instruments, but the circuit boards and everything you see in here are true works of art. So if you're an electronics or circuit geek, look no further than Soma Laboratories, because what they produce is absolutely amazing in terms of technology, in terms of performance traditions that they're influenced by, and so forth. So these are just examples of some of the devices I work with in my own music, and I've been doing music for quite a bit of time. I mentioned in my biography that I was originally a music major back in the day, and I took an anthropology class, got really jazzed about anthro, so switched to anthropology. But then when I was both at Indiana University, I took graduate level coursework as an undergrad in ethnomusicology, and I also ran the Archive of Traditional Music's non-traditional performance series that they did, and it's the largest sound archive in the world, I think second maybe to the Library of Congress. So I was deeply involved in that program. I'll be talking about just those classes and learning from ethnomusicologists and all the performers that I scheduled through our non-Western performance series at the Archives of Traditional Music. Also took a lot of coursework in music at the University of Iowa in terms of improvisation. And so I'll bring some of that into this discussion and conversation as well. I've done also a lot of music composition and performance in bands ranging from pop bands playing Madonna to industrial bands playing Front 242 and Nine Inch Nails to a local blues band that I played in most recently. Trying to think of the other performance I've done. Wrote a kind of a avant-garde opera when I was at Indiana University. I scored that on pencil, so I'll talk about that in our section on performance. And most currently, I do a lot of work in live looping. If you know Reinhard Burr, or even Mark Rabelais in a more comedic sense, though I don't do comedy. Those are live looping artists that really use live loops to create a different kind of musical aesthetic. The work that I'm doing now is using what's called Eurorack synthesis or analog modular synthesis, and that's a lot of what you see back here, and we'll get into kind of what that entails down the road. If you're able to see, I just wanted to point this, so that instrument there is a homemade gamelan or percussion instrument that I used recently when I was doing a live looping performance. So another thing I'm really interested in is the creation of homemade instruments, or what we call bespoke instruments. And that could include your own circuit design. If you're into guitar pedals, circuit bending is kind of another angle that I think is pretty interesting. So if any of you want to get involved in creating your own instrument for your project, I'd be happy to help guide you through some of that, since I've made some string instruments, percussion instruments, and also different electronic devices. I'm by no means a master woodworker or anything like that, but one of the cool things about creating some of these instruments is that you likely have a lot of the tools you might need literally and materials just lying around the house. So that's one possibility to do, certainly, for your projects. So what I'm going to try to do in this class is try to really use like my own musical traditions to talk about issues in sound, music, and culture. I'll also talk about my expertise in ethnomusicology and being a professional cultural anthropologist, having studied a lot of different arenas of popular culture, as you can see on my website and my bio. And so a lot of that is going to come into play when we do these Zoom sessions. So we'll have an open conversation, and I might explore things through some of the sonic potentials of what's here, kind of using this almost like a live laboratory or experimental studio for us to explore some issues each week in the class in which we do a Zoom session. So that's kind of a sense of what I might be getting you involved in as far as these Zoom sessions. And I think they could be very cool. Again, this is brand new doing it this way, so I'm trying it out and seeing how it will work. So looking at this now, I think that is all I have to cover. I just wanted to give you like an overview of how to approach the class. If you get stuck in this first week, the most important thing to do is go to your Canvas inbox. Let me know that you're stuck. I'm planning probably our first Zoom session as well, so that'll be listed on the class. Just make sure you look for that on the Zoom link, the optional Zoom link for week 1 for the first week of the quarter. So welcome to Anthro 131, the Anthropology of Music and Sound. I think it should be a pretty interesting class. Again, we're going to approach this in a much different way. So within the first week or so, we really do want to have a conversation to make sure that you understand the approach that I'm taking and how I really do want to structure this as a seminar in which all of you express your ideas and theories and concepts and concerns as they relate to the interplay of sound and music and culture in terms of anthropology. So thanks for listening to this overview navigation video. I'll be back with more videos, and I'll see some of you online in our discussion posts or our Zoom sessions.